Today, I'm going to be talking about confidence. I get so many emails and questions about the topic. As far as I'm concerned, I can only talk about it from my perspective. Confidence is a state of mind, and it's something that you have to create. It's something that you have to address. It's something that you have to think about. In my experience, you just can't click your fingers and all of a sudden you become confident. I remember as a young police officer in the state of Utah, how much confidence I lacked when I first went out on patrol. And over time, you develop confidence. So I think it's something that affects all of us. When I first started speaking in public, I lacked confidence. But over time, it got better and better. But how do we get there? Okay, because there's not one physical act you can do that says, if you push against a wall, you're going to become confident. If you stand with arms akimbo, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be confident. Confidence starts with the state of mind. What I tell young people, and even those who have achieved a lot, but maybe for the first time are having to go out and speak, is be confident about one thing. And people forget this. They want to be confident, but they have no confidence in at least one thing. So start out by picking something that you're really good at. And I don't care if you're a good skateboarder, if you can climb a rock wall, if you're a good kayaker, or you're good with statistics or math. Pick something that you're really good at, that you're confident about, that if challenged, you can robustly defend, and build on that. Think about how you feel when you can do that climb of the wall or whatever athletic thing it is that you can do, or mathematical equation. That sentiment you feel when you have that confidence, that's what you have to build on. But try to find something, just one thing. The second thing is, and most people forget, you have to rehearse. You have to rehearse many of the things that will contribute to you having confidence. And it may be something as simple as how you enter a room confidently, how you look at the audience confidently, how you sit and put your things out confidently. I see a lot of people come fresh out of college and they lack confidence in what they're wearing. Many of them are wearing a suit for the first time. Many of them have never been in a boardroom. Many of them don't know where they're supposed to look, where they're supposed to sit, what they're supposed to bring with them. All of a sudden you show up in a boardroom and everybody else has all this nice gear and equipment and bags and so forth, and you've got something that you were using throughout college. The things that we attach to ourselves can contribute to that confidence. I always tell individuals, go out and get the outfit that you're going to wear so that you can wear it in advance and feel confident in that. And then rehearse everything that you are going to do. For some people, it is a skill. It is a skill that whether you're, shooting arrows with a bow, or you're mountain climbing, or you're going to give a speech. Experts, people who really come across confident, rehearse. And I'm going to say this over and over. How many times? Some people, I've heard them say, I rehearsed 3 or 4 times. 3 or 4 times? That's what amateurs do, right? I'm talking about rehearsing a speech, rehearsing a PowerPoint presentation, rehearsing what you're going to say at a meeting 20, 30 times. And I get this look of shock. And I say, have you ever been to a play? Do you think they only rehearse 3 or 4 times? They might rehearse 30, 40, 50 times. I myself find that even though there are topics that I'm very familiar with, prior to an event, I will rehearse it as many as 20 and 30 times. And how we rehearse matters because, for instance, many times we're sitting and we're just reciting what's in front of us. We're reading what we're going to say, and that's not good enough. You want to recite, you want to practice what you have to say in different environments. Standing up, walking outside. I've asked individuals, have you ever gone to your backyard, put a tape recorder down, and rehearse what you're going to say? And they say no. And I tell them to go do it. And what a difference it makes, because for the first time, you don't have that reverb that you get in a room. It's like your voice disappears and you realize, oh my gosh, I need to add more emphasis. I need to add more oomph, more energy, more of dynamic gestures, because the voice is just carried away. Listening to your voice for the first time, for some people, is quite an awakening. Make sure that you listen to yourself, listen to your cadence, walk and talk at the same time. And I get questions about that. Why would you do that? Because it feels different. The other thing is working on voice. We think that the voice that we talk to each other when we order a sandwich or we tell somebody about a movie we saw is the same voice of confidence. It is not. You have to work on that voice which comes across as authoritative, as one that has thought deeply about what you are talking about, that it is pensive, and that it reflects the true emotions of how you feel. Yes, it is theatrical. Why? Shakespeare said it. All life is theater. And the more confident you are in front of that audience, be it 3 individuals, you may be applying for a loan and you're just talking to a bank officer, or you're talking to 600 people. They're looking at you. They're looking at your performance and how you do. Confidence, how quickly you answer questions. Lack of hesitation. There is no equivocation. The facts, the figures, the numbers, everything you need to know and say has been rehearsed. Again, 20, 30 times. I see people going to meetings that are really important meetings and they have not rehearsed one word that they're going to say. And they come across as lacking confidence. And there's nothing worse than to have a CEO look over at you and say, buddy, you're letting me down. You're not coming across as confident at all. We're trying to impress these people. But the way you answer, having to look things up, not having facts in your mind immediately available, comes across as lacking confidence. And one other thing, when you lack confidence, it makes you look less credible. Your gestures help to enhance communications. The gestures of a confident person are smooth but broad. I've said this many times over the years. Smooth but broad. Rehearse that. Rehearse what you're going to do with your hands to potentiate your message. When you walk in, your chin should be high, your shoulders should be broad. You are looking at everyone. There is no looking down, there's no looking at your navel, right? You've been in meetings where people are asking questions and everybody's like, no, there's none of that. The confident person looks straight at you. The confident person says, I did that. I made that decision. It's on me. I'm going to own it. That's confidence. And even if you screw it up, you can say, you know what? Under the circumstances, this is what I thought was best. But you come across as confident rather than somebody that equivocates. One of the things that I also focus on is when you're confident, you have dominion over the territory. And you may be entitled to just where you're sitting or the area on the desk in front of you. But if that's all you have dominion over, that's yours. You're going to put your things down. You're going to own that space. That territory is for your hands, for your material, and you're going to be confident about your territory. Now, obviously, in some cultures, you're limited by that, and spatially in other circumstances, you may not. Years ago, I learned it's a hack or a trick from the great British actor Michael Caine. And he said, a confident person, if you look at movies over the last 70, 80 years, those individuals that were confident, they didn't blink. I've thought long and hard about this because Michael Caine is a terrific actor, and he's absolutely right. In those close-up shots, when confident people make a point, they don't sit there and flutter their eyes. They don't sit there and blink away in nervousness. They look straight at you. That has to be rehearsed. He learned that early on as an actor, and he's used it all his life, as did many of the great actors throughout the decades. The other thing that confident people do or don't do is what are called adaptive behaviors, or what I call pacifiers. Right? So pacifiers are the wringing of the hands, grabbing things, or doing anything that is distracting, any self-touching because you're nervous. Look, I've been nervous. I've been in front of psychopaths that made me nervous to the point where my knees buckled. But boy, from the waist up, I did everything I could to hide it. And this is something that you have to work at, that you may be confronted with something that makes you nervous, but how do we hide it? We can put our hands behind our backs, we can hold something, and rather than maneuvering with it or stroking it, we merely put pressure on it so that it attenuates this need to self-soothe, to pacify, to be self-adaptive. The other thing you can do is, and it's very simple, don't reinvent the wheel. There are plenty of examples in life of people that you can model. You can model the way they walk. You can model the way they talk. You can model the way they carry themselves, how they answer questions, and so forth. Model behavior that is ideal, that is respected, that is well known, that has positive consequences and is influential, and avoid everything else. You know, I remember at a young age listening to the Reverend Martin Luther King and the cadence with which he spoke. I have a dream.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
That cadence, I've modeled that in the way that I teach, because in a way, people have an opportunity to take in what I'm saying and appreciate the words that I'm saying. So model behaviors that will benefit you. We've talked about territory and confidence. How we sit, how relaxed we sit, how comfortable we sit is dependent on us. We can either look jittery and nervous while we're sitting and hyper-reactive, or we feel confident and in control. We learn those behaviors. We model other people and say, you know, I like the way she sits there and takes command of that meeting and goes around the room and asks everyone what they think. That pace, her manner, her voice, I like, I'm going to model. Here's one that most people never think about, and it's huge. You want to have confidence? Listen to the words of my dear friend George Logothetis. He was speaking at the University of Miami. He's the chairman of the Libra group, and he said, be likable. Don't underestimate the power of likability. Come across as likable, and in doing so, you will exude confidence. So use that as part of your repertoire. If you're scowling, if you're upset, if you are nervous and tense, you're not going to come across as likable. So think to yourself, as I said, it's a mindset. I want to be likable. Do those behaviors that contribute to likability. One of the things that I think you always need to factor in, and it's an important point, is how your clothing can factor in confidence. If your clothing is dirty, if your clothing doesn't fit, if it's irregular, if it's the first time you're wearing it and you're not sure how avoid that. Always think about engaging as much of the audience as you can, because that also contributes to confidence. If you only address this person because they know you know them, or this part of the room but ignore that part of the room, you're not being confident. Use the smile to establish comfort, but also in others, but also to make yourself feel good about yourself and engage others. Now, I tend to be very introverted, and I have to force myself to go and meet this person, go and meet that person, shake their hands, say hello, and engage them. That's an art form. Many of us have difficulty with that. Rehearse it. Rehearse how you're going to do it, how you're going to approach them, how you're going to shake hands, what you're going to say, and then you don't have to loiter, you can move on. But engage. Engaging others, whether it's an audience or individually, contributes to confidence. One of the other things that you can do as you advance in developing your confidence is on any given topic. Let's say I'm asked to talk about body language or human behavior or personality traits. Tell yourself, I'm going to master 10 things. I'm going to know 10 things better than anyone in that room. I'm going to know everything about it. I'm going to know facts, statistics. I'm going to know stories. If you can do that with 10 things, that gives you so much confidence. If you can tell yourself, no matter what they say, how they attack me, I know that I have 10 things that can stand the attack, that can stand scrutiny, that cannot be argued with. Facts. It gives you so much confidence. As I used to prepare for court, where I would be really attacked by defense attorneys and others, I welcomed them to challenge me because I was so prepared. And in time, by my posture, by my presence, they could tell, don't mess with Joe Navarro, because he comes prepared. What is prepared? Confidence. So this is something that you can do. If you have a meeting, prepare for it. Know at least 10 things so robustly that nobody can challenge you. And I assure you, you'll walk in there with confidence. Now, I've been in situations where it's a last minute thing. I remember one time I was visiting in Brazil, and I was doing some work with the American embassy there. And at the last minute, they said, well, would you like to speak to a group that's visiting? And I thought, no, not really. on the stage I was, lacking total confidence because I spoke a little bit of Portuguese, but not really confident in it. And I said, oh boy, I've got to play this part. And I remember right next to the stage, there was a wall where there was some equipment, and I just leaned into that stage wall, and I just put all this pressure and all that tension in my body went into that wall. I recommend this all the time. Right before you have to go on, whether you're in a bathroom, in the hallway, wherever, lean into a wall, push into it like you're literally holding it up. Let that tension leave. And I walked in there and then I just said, what would you like to know? And that opened it up. So there are many times where we think we're confident, we're presented with something that challenges us, but we can rise to it. Just have in that quiver of effective things that you can utilize, some things that you know will work, like a deep breath, exhaling, pushing against a wall, mentally telling yourself, nobody knows as much about this as I do, knowing 10 things that nobody can question, but certainly knowing that one thing that you know you'll always be confident about. So when we talk about confidence, remember, confidence doesn't start with the body. Confidence starts with the mind. Use that to tell your body what it's supposed to do so that when people look at you and you look at yourself, then you can, and only then can you exude confidence. There you have it on confidence. So please, if you've enjoyed this, like it, subscribe below, ring the bell. I enjoy hearing from you. Write me, leave me your notes, and thank you for listening in. Thank you.